New leadership on the region's public transit board could signal a new direction for the agency. Thousands of people are expected to descend on downtown San Diego this weekend for the second annual Women's March.
Flip-flops. There's a ball of line, foaming plastic. Is this a printer toner cartridge?
And ocean-bound trash is finding its way into some of the most remote corners of the world. KPBS Evening Edition starts right now. Good evening, and thanks for joining us. I'm Ebony Monet. The board of the Metropolitan Transit System has a new chairwoman. KPBS Metro reporter Andrew Bowen says it has unanimously elected Georgette Gomez.
Congratulations, Georgette.
The room broke out into applause after Gomez's election. The San Diego City Councilwoman is the first Latina to chair the transit agency's board. She's a progressive Democrat, and she represents some of the most transit-dependent neighborhoods in San Diego, including City Heights. She says when she looks at the transit system, she sees room for improvement.
And I'm looking forward to really leading that discussion and implementing it as well for the sake of not just public transit, but also for the sake of our environment. We need to do something different. And this is, public transit is one of those huge components where we have an opportunity to do much better for our environment.
Years of declining MTS ridership are threatening state and local goals of cutting greenhouse gas emissions, most of which come from cars and trucks. Officials hope a revamp of bus routes at the end of the month will make the system run more efficiently. Andrew Bowen, KPBS News.
Thousands of people are expected to attend the women's marches in San Diego this Saturday. KPBS reporter Allison St. John has more on where the two marches will be and how to get there.
Stations like this one are likely to be busy on Saturday as two women's marches take place in San Diego County, one in downtown and one in North County. There are marches in all 50 states in order to mark the one-year anniversary of the election of President Donald Trump. They're designed to empower people, not just women, all people, the rights of immigrants, social and environmental justice. Everybody is welcome. Last year, twice as many people showed up to both of these rallies as was expected. Downtown, they predicted more than 20,000, more than 40,000 people showed up. In North County, they expected about 2,000, well over 4,000 showed up. And this year, those numbers could double again. The focus of these rallies is peaceful. The protesters are being encouraged to bring signs that are not negative but positive in their focus. Downtown, the marchers will march along Harbor Drive and Pacific Highway. In North County, they'll march from Palomar College down West Mission Road. Both downtown and in North County, the ralliers will march about 1.2 miles, and once they're done, they'll return and have speeches, food, and music. So the big question is how to get there with thousands of people planning to attend both rallies. In downtown, the suggestion is to park at Qualcomm Stadium and then take the trolley because the Metropolitan Transit District is putting on twice as many trolleys as usual. They'll be running every 7.5 minutes instead of every 15 minutes. And the station to get off at is Little Italy. Up here in North County, the coastal rail line is closed because they're double tracking the line. So there will not be any trains running from Oceanside to downtown. Instead, North County Transit District is putting on buses, and at 8 o'clock in the morning, there will be buses scheduled from Oceanside, Carlsbad, Encinitas, and Solana Beach. People are advised to arrive early because there's no guarantee there'll be a seat on those buses. They will take you to Old Town, where once again you can jump on the trolley. For people in North County, it might be easier to go to the rally in San Marcos at Palomar College. They're leading off with Japanese drummers, and they'll have music, food, and speeches after the march. The most important thing, if you're going to either of those marches, is to start early in the morning, before 8 o'clock. In Oceanside, I'm Allison St. John for KPBS News.
UC San Diego will have a distinguished speaker for this spring's commencement ceremony. The school says civil rights leader and Georgia Congressman John Lewis will be giving the graduation address in June. University officials say Lewis and the university share the same values of public service and inclusive excellence. Lewis helped organize the 1963 March on Washington and the Selma to Montgomery marches in 1965, which ended in a clash with Alabama state troopers that became known as Bloody Sunday. The soccer-focused team aiming to redevelop the Mission Valley Stadium site took aim today at a similar proposal being pushed by Friends of San Diego State University. KPBS reporter Eric Anderson has details.
Both groups propose building housing, commercial space, a sports stadium, and a river park on the property where SDCCU Stadium now sits. SDSU West hopes to turn part of the land into an ancillary campus. FS Investors wants to leverage the development to lure a Major League Soccer team to San Diego. SoccerCity partner Nick Stone says there are differences, and the promise to build a long-awaited river park is just one of them.
The park is a great example of it. SoccerCity controls and funds the park construction for $40 million and the ongoing maintenance for the next 99 years. The SDSU West initiative that these developers put forward actually intentionally excludes the parkland from what they purchase, leaving it as a city property, requiring therefore the city to build the park for them and take over the maintenance cost for the next 99 years.
Stone says the SoccerCity project needs no taxpayer dollars, and they argue that's not the case for SDSU West. He says there are also differences in planned spending on traffic mitigation and the amount of student housing. Now, Friends of SDSU officials disagree. They said in a statement, quote, "The supposed comparison of initiatives by SoccerCity misrepresents the initiatives and is completely inaccurate. SDSU West is the only initiative that balances the needs of the city of San Diego, our region, taxpayers, and San Diego State University," unquote. The SDSU West backers submitted more than 100,000 signatures to the Registrar of Voters this week. If about 71,000 are valid, the measure could end up on the November ballot, competing with the SoccerCity initiative. Eric Anderson, KPBS News.
Prosecutors announced charges today in the case of the Riverside County couple who allegedly tortured their 13 children for years. They say the 17-year-old who got away and called 911 had been working on that escape plan for more than 2 years. She and her siblings were chained to beds for months at a time, and their growth stunted due to starvation.
To give you an example, one of the children at age 12 is the weight of an average 7-year-old. The 29-year-old female victim weighs 82 pounds. Several of the victims have cognitive impairment and neuropathy, which is nerve damage as a result of this extreme and prolonged physical abuse.
Prosecutors say while the parents severely restricted the children's activities, they were allowed to write in their journals. Prosecutors hope these journals will provide powerful evidence against the couple. State and local government leaders in California are hearing rumors of massive impending raids by federal immigration authorities. According to one published report, raids are expected in San Francisco and many other Northern California communities. California recently implemented a statewide sanctuary policy in defiance of federal immigration policy. California's Attorney General is cautioning employers that under California's new law, they're not allowed to open their business or employment files to federal immigration agents.
Remember the saying, ignorance of the law is no excuse. If you violate the law because you didn't know what it was, that's not an excuse. And there are some new laws in play in California starting in 2018, and so know what your rights and your responsibilities are under California's laws.
ICE says California's sanctuary status places public safety at risk and is a violation of federal law. This is, of course, not the first time Xavier Becerra has gone head-to-head with the federal government on immigration. A federal judge recently sided with California and blocked President Trump's decision to end DACA, the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals program. Becerra spoke with KQED's Thuy Vu about this legal fight.
At this point, how would you assess the current legal landscape for DACA and trying to preserve it?
Well, I've said it all along. DACA was legal when it was enacted, DACA is legal today, and the president should stop trying to change the law by breaking the law. And that's why the courts have told the president that his repeal of DACA is now on hold, and we're going to litigate this to the end. We now have been told by the judge that he believes there's a strong likelihood that we will prevail in the litigation. And I would simply tell Congress, do not accept a bad deal. We just heard a court say that the president's actions were likely illegal. Why would you accept bad things on immigration, bad deals on something else, simply to try to get DACA? The leverage is now with those who are supporters of DACA to make sure that we don't let others load up an agreement with bad immigration items and provisions.
Do you think Democrats should continue to press for a clean bipartisan bill to give Dreamers a path to citizenship without any attachments to things like funding for a border wall or cracking down on the visa lottery program? How productive is that effort, though, given that Congress is currently controlled by Republicans?
Forgive me, I'm going to give you an answer here that some Democrats may not like. I don't understand why Democrats continue to act like they have to bail out Republicans for doing these crazy things. Republicans just passed a tax break bill that gives the wealthiest Americans and corporations $1.8 trillion worth of tax breaks. Now Republicans are claiming that they have to cut services and programs for veterans, for our school kids, for elderly, because there's no money. Why would Democrats sign off on a budget that cuts those services while Republicans created the deficit hole that makes them say they have to make cuts? Why we would have to negotiate a deal for the DACA Dreamers that has bad immigration policy in it makes no sense, especially now that we were able to win an injunction stopping the president from canceling DACA. Now the leverage is with us. Why Democrats would bargain away their leverage, I don't understand, and I would hope my colleagues in the Congress on the Democratic side would recognize we've got some clout, but more importantly, we got to stand up for people. People who are veterans, people who are seniors, people who want to go to college. It's time for us to stand up for these folks and demand that we get a budget that's good for them, not just give away tax breaks for the wealthiest.
I also wanted to ask you about TPS. The Trump administration moved to end protections for immigrants from El Salvador under the Temporary Protected Status Program this week. And then last November, it made a similar decision ending TPS for Haitians. So at this point, are you planning to take any action against this crackdown on TPS?
As with DACA, we're going to take a look at what our options would be. You're talking about people who have been here decades. And in some cases longer, in most cases, in fact, longer than the DACA recipients themselves. And so these are people who have proven that while they had an opportunity to be here in America, they were great citizens. They were great contributors. And why all of a sudden you would tell them that you're going to throw the key out and throw them out as well, it just, once again, it makes you understand Donald Trump's thinking and why he would have said the vulgar things he said about so many of these immigrants and their countries.
On the issue of marijuana, U.S. Attorney General Jeff Sessions has indicated his office will step up enforcement of federal laws against marijuana, and that would affect states like California, where voters just legalized recreational pot. Are you planning to do anything to challenge this? What are the legal avenues you're pursuing at this point?
Well, in California, use of marijuana for medicinal purposes and recreational purposes is now legal. I'm going to enforce that law. We're not going back to the 20th century. This is 2018 now. And for us in California, we made a decision. We're going to regulate. We're not going to criminalize marijuana. Someone wants to tell us differently, they got to show us how and why. I know the federal government has a law that says that marijuana is a controlled substance which is against the law. I can't stop them. I can't change that law, but I can tell them that in California, we don't arrest people for following the law and for doing things the right way. So if you're licensed to sell marijuana, if you do things the right way in your use of it, in California, our law enforcement is not going to go out there looking for you.
All right. Attorney General Xavier Becerra, we appreciate your time. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
I'm Judy Woodruff. Tonight on the NewsHour, the countdown toward a government shutdown. Can Congress make a deal before the clock runs out? That's coming up at 7, right after Evening Edition on KPBS.
Amazon has announced finalist cities for where their new headquarters is going to be. San Diego and Chula Vista entered the sweepstakes but didn't make the cut. In all, 238 cities in North America applied. Amazon has cut that list to 20. Los Angeles was the only California city to make the cut, and Denver the only other city in the West. The Seattle-based internet giant says it plans to spend more than $5 billion on HQ2 and provide 50,000 high-paying jobs. Amazon already has a large presence in San Diego after leasing more than 100,000 square feet of office space in University City. The false alarms this past week in Hawaii and then in Japan about missile strikes have some wondering what you should do in the event of an impending nuclear attack. AP reporter Robert Bumstead says looking for those iconic fallout shelters may not be your best bet.
They are relics of the Cold War, still scattered throughout cities across America. Signs designating fallout shelters.
I've been here thousands of times, and I've never once considered this a fallout shelter.
In New York City, more than 18,000 of them were put up in the event of nuclear war, and today, many of them still exist.
I can tell you that, for example, my kids would have no idea what that means.
But officials here warn they're not only confusing, they're also no longer functional, and they could be misleading the public.
They really should come down.
Elliot Calhoun is a planner at the New York City Department of Emergency Management.
Fallout shelters are the best defense against nuclear radiation.
He says since the Cold War, conventional wisdom has changed on what can be done if the big one hits.
The thing is, it doesn't have to be called a fallout shelter to make it a place where you can get be well protected from nuclear fallout. All you need to do is put as much distance and space and objects, really, like walls and ground, etc., between you and the outside where this dangerous material can land.
The city has already started dismantling the signs on some public buildings, and they're working on plans to eventually take all of them down. The issue is especially relevant given what happened in Hawaii last week. A staffer accidentally fired off an emergency alert to the whole state, warning of an incoming ballistic missile. Chaos ensued. The retraction came almost 40 minutes later.
Everyone in Watch Command has thought about, like, oh my gosh, that could have been me.
It's a scary thought for the people at the helm of New York's emergency alert system, but staff here say it's less likely the mistake could happen on their watch. The testing system and the real emergency system are kept separate with plenty of fail-safes in place.
For New York City Emergency Management, it's not impossible, but it's difficult to kind of mess that up.
Hawaii might have been a false alarm, but next time it might be real.
So if you get an alert and it is for real, stay inside. Go to the deepest part of the building you're in, away from windows, and skip the fallout shelter. Robert Bumstead, Associated Press.
Mild weather today, but it's time to pull out those umbrellas. Showers are expected tomorrow. Erin Calandra has more in the forecast.
Well, I hope everyone had a nice day today. The weather really is great. It's kind of the quiet before the storm because we do have a cold front heading in our direction. Not today, though. Today, things are pretty quiet. Taking a look across the county, not much happening. To the north of us, this is the cold front. It's going to be pushing to the south, and it's going to reach us by Friday. We're going to see a couple of showers and also dropping temperatures. So for tonight, 56 degrees, some clouds around, nothing out of the ordinary. And then across the region, well, that's how it pretty much looks tonight. Oceanside 50, Ramona 43, Alpine 44, and Borrego Springs coming in at 49 degrees. Now here's that front. Again, along with this, we are going to see a couple of showers, spotty throughout the day and also into Saturday morning. And then behind the front, we're going to have some cool air coming down from the north, and it's going to be a couple degrees below average, but we're not talking freezing conditions or even anything close to that. So tomorrow, expect to bring the umbrella with you to work. Could have some slippery conditions on the roadway because of puddling water. Oceanside 64 degrees, Poway 68, and San Diego 63 degrees. Borrego Springs, the deserts, they're going to stay dry. No rain in that region, although it is going to be windy there. 70 94 degrees. Mount Laguna coming in at in those upper 50s. Here we are for the weekend. Well, big dip in the jet stream that's going to be pushing away, so we are going to return back to normal. And even the East Coast is going to have some mild conditions. Pretty nice because it's been a winter tundra for some time here on the East Coast. So on Friday, expect some showers. It's going to be cooler, 64 degrees. And then on Saturday, some morning showers, but then drying out for sunshine. And temperatures again on the cool side at 61 degrees. Sunday, 62. And then by Monday, Tuesday, well, temperatures are on the rise. Inland again, a wet day Friday. A bit cool on Saturday, 62 for the high. Our lows in the 30s. And then slowly warming up again by Tuesday. We're back up to 76 degrees. In the mountains, a wet day Friday. Also Saturday morning. Could even see a snowflake or two in the mountains. Temperatures at 36 on Saturday for the high. And in the deserts, it's staying dry. Temperatures right around average. Ebony, back to you.
Starting today, Mission Bay is going to get a good dredging. The city says crews will excavate the bay floor to make it easier for boats to navigate through. They say it's been about 50 years since the last major dredging. The work will be done by cranes mounted on barges. The ongoing work could result in sections of the beach and bay being temporarily closed. The dredging is expected to continue through September. Ocean currents carry man-made debris to remote corners of the planet, even places mostly untouched by people, and that makes it difficult to clean up. In tonight's Earth Fix report, reporter Ken Christensen follows a group of scientists on a long journey to recover their own marine debris.
John Mickett is traveling to a beautiful, remote island. He spends hours in the car, hops a ferry, drives some more.
Oh, there's the Pacific Ocean. Check that out.
Arranges a helicopter ride with a satellite phone.
It's ringing.
It's a 13-hour trip. One way. To find a buoy.
There it is. Things don't always work as you expect them to.
Unplanned trips to chase wayward buoys is part of life as a physical oceanographer. For 2 decades, Mickett has built complicated floating instruments that take ocean measurements. Last year, this one was bobbing along the Washington coast.
90 miles away, directly in that direction, down to where it used to be. During that time of year when it broke free, the currents are just screaming to the north. And I think it just got caught in that current.
In fact, ocean currents carry all sorts of man-made stuff to far-flung places, including untouched beaches, like this one. But most of the stuff isn't like Mickett's buoy. Nobody's spending 3 days to recover it. And Mickett says we need to know about it.
Wow.
Fishing floats.
This guy's a long line float.
Plastic water bottles.
So many water bottles.
And more.
Flip-flops. There's a ball of line. Foam and plastic. Is this a printer toner cartridge? That's an octopus. And I can look down right here and pick up maybe 5 or 6 pieces of plastic. So this is a very remote, beautiful spot, but it's not untouched by human activity. And the fact that it is so remote, people can't get out here. There's thousands of them on the beach.
Worldwide, we're talking trillions, because every year 8 million tons of plastic end up in the ocean. In the Pacific Northwest, some of it is coming from as far away as Asia.
You just pick up a random float, it'll have Japanese, Chinese markings. It's coming across the ocean.
The tsunami that struck Japan in 2011 unleashed enough marine debris to prompt a massive cleanup effort on North America's west coast. It took months, $1 million from the Japanese government, and a really big barge. But chasing buoys around, Mickett has seen plenty of other beaches, like this one. And he says cleaning them up is crucial. Big plastic like this becomes small plastic in the future.
It just breaks down to smaller and smaller bits, and it ends up in the food chain.
So the group collects its own debris. A 1,500-pound buoy made of metal and styrofoam. and as much trash as they have room for.
We can't just leave it here.
But without more time and money, they'll have to leave the rest. The wildest places may be difficult to reach for us, but not for our trash.
You can read more about ocean trash and how to prevent it from piling up at kcts9.org. Now here's a look at what we're working on for tomorrow in the KPBS newsroom. On Morning Edition, home buyers can start moving into a new Otay Ranch housing development once stalled by the discovery of methane and other chemicals. And on Midday Edition, a Southern California man plays a part in the Me Too movement by telling his story of being an abuser. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/Evening Edition. And tonight, we leave you. Thanks for joining us. Have a great evening.